focused on cutting checks to bumbling bureaucrats. They don't care about rising debt and inflationary deficits so long as the money keeps flowing to the Liberal elites. When will this Prime Minister stop using tax dollars to reward his friends?
If the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth.
Yesterday from the Prime Minister really freaked these Conservatives out because they saw the ambition in that speech. And not only did they see it in that speech today, as the Prime Minister stood with the Premier investing in new nuclear to ensure the jobs of today and the future, they know that the youth...
The only thing that's revolting are those answers.
Speaker, we will take no lessons from these Conservatives. Trust me on that, Mr. Speaker.
It's too bad that that minister didn't write the Prime Minister's speech yesterday, because it wouldn't have bored and depressed to tears all of those poor students stuck in that room. There he spoke about how they would have to sacrifice more and that it would take time to reverse all of the misery that has built up over the last 10 years. Mr. Speaker, young people want to have homes. They want to have jobs. They want to have hope. They want a budget that is affordable so they can have a life that is affordable. Will the Prime Minister introduce that budget so that Canadians can restore the promise of their country?
People of Canada know that this government has their back. It will continue. There's going to be a powerful statement for the young people of Canada.
Driving inflation. The more Liberals spend, the more it costs Canadians at the grocery store. 25% of Canadians are using food banks because they can't afford to eat. So when will the Prime Minister finally get his inflationary deficits under control so Canadians can put food on the table?
Mr. Speaker, Conservative members pretend to care about food insecurity, but then they call feeding children garbage.
Mr. Speaker, what's garbage was that answer?
Did the Prime Minister see the ad before it went out?
Of course there are too many people living in poverty in Canada, but there are significant initiatives being put in place by this government.
Being serious means being honest and telling Canadians.
Canada's economy is in fact growing, Mr. Speaker.
Out of control spending on consultants. Last year alone, over $20 billion on well-connected Liberal insiders getting contracts. And this year, I think the number said that it's going to go as high as $25 billion. Why won't they put Canadians first? Instead of asking young people to make sacrifices, why won't they cut out their well-connected friends, put Canadians first, and deliver a budget that Canadians can actually afford?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Too focused on...
Hey, welcome. Welcome to the NAP, the no answer period, where we cover the question period, prefaced by a review of the far left evil that has beset our land and the events that surround it. The NAP precedes question period by 45 minutes, and we'll cover the lower house until the government decides to stop showing up. We also keep score. The description on how we keep score is down below in the description, and we'll cover it. We'll cover it a little bit just for a question period. We are streaming on 3 platforms, Rumble, X, and CommieTube. I'd like to thank my followers and subscribers for doing so. And if you're new, please give us a like, thumbs up, follow, and share, subscribe, and most of all, the chat is up. And leave some comments down below. Comments drive the algorithm when I'm not driving the algorithm down with my forbidden words. All right, let's go straight into the first story that we've been covering. We didn't have much of an update last Friday, but there is more of an update today. And here we have Creighton's Right with a little more info.
And reporting that the farm would be seeking to remove the Canadian Food Inspection from the farm for abrogating and breaching the terms of the Supreme Court order. CFIA is up with another update on Halloween, October 31st, 2025. The CFIA is up with another update. I find this absolutely fascinating. And Katie, I don't believe has read this. She hadn't read this last night. I'm sure she read it this morning. And she'll be putting a rebuttal out. But this is incredible, because you can't tell me they're not watching the material that independent media is putting out, and actually what I'm putting out, because I don't believe anybody else out there has been putting out the information about the bird blender. There's been lots of social media about the fact the number of ostriches is definitely declining. And of course, CFIA lies about that in this news release, or whatever the hell this is. The CFIA lies about a number of other things in this document, but they're directly responding to the information that this reporter has been putting out about what's been going on that farm, and why people are asking about these blender noises, these grinding noises at night, all these effluents being taken off the farm at 3 o'clock in the morning. What's going on? Why has the population of ostriches dropped to perhaps 200? Where are they going? CFIA is watching this. And you notice they don't say that's ridiculous. They just deny it. Watch this. As ordered by the Supreme Court of Canada, the CFI continues to have custody of the birds. The birds. Sounds like an Alfred Hitchcock movie. While a decision on the farm's application for leave to appeal is being considered, the Supreme Court of Canada will be issuing its decision on Universal Ostrich Farm's application for leave to appeal on November 6, 2025.
There's just no world where these people come out looking clean at the CFIA. None whatsoever. They are just a bunch of evil bureaucrats who don't care about people whatsoever. And speaking about people who don't care, oh my goodness me. What an embarrassment our Chief of Defense Staff is with her little display as a leader. And what's even more disturbing about this is that she's not even apologizing for what they've actually done for harms, right? They're apologizing for this ongoing issue with the small number of crimes that were committed in the military. And remember, if you look at a comparison between society and the military, and you look at each one of those crimes, and you look at the amount of times that it actually happens in the military compared to society, you will find that those events are almost tiny, minute. So I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it did. But the entire victim oppressor narrative that this woman right here, this CDS engineered and brokered and ensured that it rolled into the Canadian Armed Forces as soon as 2015 came around. She was selected from all the people in the ranks, and they said, oh, we need a woman as a CDS. Who's an up-and-comer? Well, they targeted her, and they made her the one to choose. And they primed her. As soon as they took her out of operations, they put her in charge of DEI. She pushed that crap all the way through the armed forces. And then she was also instrumental in ensuring that there was an atmosphere within the Canadian Armed Forces that made sure that people that had certain allegations, certain generals had allegations made to them, and that by the time it came to courts martial, the prosecution just dropped and said, "Oh, sorry, you know what? We're not going to charge." After ruining those generals' careers, so that she could rise all the way up to the top and become the CDS. Yes. That's how these Marxists operate, right? They can't get there on their own merit, so they have to create their own situation. Now, she's not going to be apologizing for all the Canadian Armed Forces members that were vaccine injured with the fraudulent COVID-19 vaccine. She's not going to apologize for all the Canadian Armed Forces members that were turned into second-class citizens as serving members and serving veterans. No, she's not going to apologize for that. She's not going to apologize for destroying the careers of close to 6,000, if not more, members of the armed forces. Just the ones that had to leave because they wouldn't take the injection, destroyed their careers, and of course, all the harm that did operationally to the armed forces, as well as the force generation capability, gonzo, out the window. And she's certainly not going to apologize for all the people that are currently vaccine injured in the armed forces that can't get recognized by the Canadian Armed Forces medical system, a system that refuses to recognize their vaccine injury, and the Veterans Affairs that also refuses to recognize vaccine injuries. That's right. They refuse to recognize COVID-19 vaccine injuries. And of course, as you know, in accordance with Chief of Defense Staff Directive 003, free COVID-19 jabs are still required if you join the military if you want to be operational. Because it's need to be operationally capable, and there's a brick of certain amounts of things that you need to do, certain amount of vaccines that you have to have depending on your deployment in certain areas. And one of those things is, boom, CDS Directive 003. If you don't get that, well, you can't go on the operations. Unless, of course, they get desperate enough and then just say, well, all right, he's not going to take it. Well, we need somebody, so I'll send him anyway. And that kind of happened early on before they got rid of us all, because there were a few. There were a few that were saying, oh, this was, at the time, they hadn't even rolled out the COVID-19 vaccine yet, but they're already making the flu shot mandatory for aircrew. And one of the tech Rubens with my last previous squadron was saying, no, I'm not taking it. So if you can't go on a flight, he says, okay, I'm not going to go then. And they were like, oh, God. We don't have anybody else to send. Okay, well, you can go this time. Yeah. Until it's operationally necessity, then they're going to drop what they need. But in this case here, for the Canadian Armed Forces, under this woman, it has become like everything else, just an experimental test bed for whatever ideological needs the Liberals have to propagate. And of course, they have complete control over the Canadian Armed Forces, right? I mean, you order people, then they got to do stuff. You order them to show up to certain things, they got to order, and they got to show up to those things. And those include all those struggle sessions. Those struggle sessions that reinforce on a regular basis the need to be either a victim or an oppressor that needs to apologize. Right? And I think this is the place that she's coming from.
Systemic racism, racial discrimination, and harassment are an affront to these values, and yet we allowed these injustices to occur and fester within our ranks. Therefore, on behalf of the Canadian Armed Forces, I offer my most sincere and deepest apologies. I apologize to every CAF member, veteran who experienced racism, discrimination, and harassment. And I acknowledge we failed you.
Who's she talking about? Who is she talking about? Is she talking about anyone since 2020 who've been completely removed from the Canadian Armed Forces because they don't fit their ideological narrative? No, she's probably not talking about those people, right? It's just a blanket statement like this. And why? Why would you do this performance? Oh, I know why. Because that's what cultural Marxists do. They perform. When they don't have any substance, all they can do is perform. There was much discussion, I remember, back in, what year was it? 1992, 93, somewhere around there. And it was at the time where women were first allowed to join combat arms. No, sorry, not combat arms, but actually join the infantry. Actually join a combat arms trade that was like front line. And it was the first year that they did it. And I think one woman finished out of the 4 that they had. And it was always the issue. They know that there's certain psychological things that you need to prepare yourself for when you are in a branch defensive position, or if you're in a forward operating position, or if you're out on patrol, right? And there's the psychological inheritance in males to want to protect females. It's natural, and you want to do that. And you can't really train that out of a soldier. I mean, you can train them out so much, but for your everyday soldier, for the majority of your soldiers that you have out there, that's going to be a distraction for them. Even the other militaries on the planet that insist on having women in front lines, they have female-only battalions. This experimentation, this diversity, equity, inclusion that this woman has wrought upon the Canadian Armed Forces, well, I think we can just see exactly what the result is. This pitiful, weak leadership. Runaway Jen. While we're on the topic of the military, President Trump was speaking to some Navy folks, Yokosuka Air Base in Japan. And he was talking about aircraft carriers, and there's one new carrier that the U.S. has I don't know, refurbished or built brand new, I forget. But it's got electromagnetic catapults and electromagnetic lifts, as opposed to using hydraulics for their elevators to lift the planes up and down from the hangar decks, and as opposed to steam for the catapult. And of course, these soldiers, they know how effective this equipment is. Everybody talks to each other. It's the same thing in our military. We get to know the ins and outs of what performs and what doesn't. And it's interesting that he actually, when he's thinking about a decision, it's like, you know what? We'll cut out the middleman and let's go to the people that actually use the equipment and get their word on it.
Hydraulic for your elevators, or magnets. You know, the new thing is magnets. So instead of using hydraulic, that you can be hit by lightning and it's fine. You take a little glass of water and you drop it on magnets. I don't know what's going to happen. So, you know, the elevators come up in the new carriers. I think I'm going to change it, by the way. They have magnets. Not every tractor has hydraulic. Every excavator, every excavating machine of any kind has hydraulic. But somebody decided to use magnets for your elevator. Maybe they're good. Which is better, hydraulic or magnets? What the hell is wrong with this, man?
So, it's mechanical advantage, obviously. And obviously, you don't need as much power to operate hydraulics as you do to operate electromagnetic lifts. And steam has been proven to be effective. And if you're looking at a system, imagine a carrier getting hit with an EMP, knocking out all the electrics. There goes your aircraft carrier. There's a reason why certain old systems work rather well. I think that explains our ad fiasco that we've had that has killed all the trade talks. And while we're talking about trade talks, let's remind everyone as a public service announcement that all mainstream media out there is part of the Qualified Canadian Journalist Organization, which means that they are taxpayer provided and Liberal government controlled propaganda outlets. Because if they piss off the Liberals, well, the CRA will just say, you know what, you can't be an independent journalist. Or sorry, you can't be an authorized, qualified Canadian journalist organization anymore. So you're on your own. Which all journalist organizations used to be on their own before the government took it over, like the communists that they are. So, Mark J. Carney had a message for us last week that we briefly covered. We're not going to go over it again because this whole thing about we need to give Canada back to you, like back to us from who? Who had it for the past 10 years? Oh, that's right, you guys did. Let's listen to Carl.
The message couldn't be any more simple.
And unfortunately, what that means is that unless something else changes, our incomes will be lower than they otherwise would have been. They'll grow, but they'll grow along a lower. This was the old path. Now there's a new path. So, I mean, I think what's most concerning is that unless we change some other things, our standard of living as a country, Canadians, is going to be lower than it otherwise would have been.
The benevolent banker with the message of serfdom to the plebs. Hey, yes, that's right. You've got to get used to having less. Why? Well, you think I'm content with just one private jet? No. I need one parked across the other side of the world too. I need two private jets. Therefore, you've got to get used to a much lower standard of living. And in the same place there, actually, Canada, well, there seems to be something going on with the lakes, something regarding.
Well, Carl goes on to mix up a bit of information there. Some of it's kind of like out of place and stuff. But he's not right. He's not wrong about the beginning. We are in a world of hurt with the people that are running this country because they are fixated on their climate change ideology because it profits Mark J. Carney and his financial portfolio. That's why all his policies are directed that way. Jamila Javani has a post here. And a typical, what is this, step 13, I think? Or sorry, goal 13 out of the Stalinist, 45 Stalinist Marxist goals of transforming the Western civilization into communist ideology. One of the things you do is you do stuff like this.
To invoke, or chair, just use the chair's prerogative for 2 seconds to ask a follow-up question to Mr. Ross. And it's despicable and as unlawful, I believe the statements made by Mr. Shakawi were and would be if they were stated again. We don't know why the prosecution chose not to continue with the charges. And perhaps it is to Mr. Fortin's point. I just want to dig in a bit about the concept of good faith, Mr. Ross. In Leviticus, Deuteronomy, Romans, there's other passages, there is clear hatred towards, for example, homosexuals. I don't understand how the concept of good faith could be invoked if someone were literally invoking a passage from, in this case, the Bible, but there are other religious texts that say the same thing, and somehow say that this is good faith. I mean, clearly there are situations in these texts where these statements are hateful. They should not be used to invoke or be a defense, and there should perhaps be discretion for prosecutors to press charges. I just want to understand what your notion of good faith is in this context where there are clearly passages in religious texts that are clearly hateful.
Mark Miller is a cultural Marxist. Communists can disguise. They will make up all kinds of excuses, but they know the difference. They know the fact that Christians will not throw a homosexual off a rooftop. In fact, the Christian will love the homosexual, regardless of what the texts say. Because there's all kinds of verses within Christianity, but the difference between Christianity and some other faiths is that they don't take it literally. But you do. You seem to take everything literally because that is a trait of a Marxist. For them, everything is binary thought. It's go or no go, yes or no. Oh, is there a little bit of in between? Oh, can't have that in between stuff. No, it's got to be yes or no for what they think and they believe. You are not allowed to have free thought or something that deviates from their pablum, from their Marxist pablum. And speaking of Marxist pablum, one of the tools that the KGB had tried to foster when it was still running the operations to try the West from within was try to increase the drug trades from within Western civilizations because they knew that when people get hooked on drugs, it destroys society. But luckily for the KGB, if they were still around today, the liberals would be their partners for unleashing harm reduction on our streets throughout the nation. And there might be a reason for that. Perhaps it's because the cartels have already infiltrated Canada in so many ways.
Thank you. Minister, you're saying this is a world problem, but why has this grown in Canada in recent years? Why do you think?
Look, the issues around transnational criminal organizations are something that we're deeply worried about. We've taken some concrete action, and Canada, like other countries, is facing an increase.
So you don't have any specific. Minister, your government lifted visa requirements for Mexico in December of 2016. Are you familiar with that decision?
I was not in cabinet at that time, but I am familiar with that decision, yes.
Do you agree that this decision expanded the cartel presence in Canada?
I don't have a direct causal link to that. But you're aware that last year that restriction was closed.
I'm aware, but do you think that there was a connection between lifting the visa requirements and the expanded presence of the cartel and the strengthening of their smuggling networks in Canada?
I'm not at liberty to speculate on that, Mr. Lloyd.
Well, Minister, I have a report from Canada Border Services Agency. This is from November of 2016, 1 month before your government decided to lift the visa requirement. I'm going to quote from it. The visa lift will make travel to Canada easier in order to establish or strengthen existing cartel smuggling chains. In the next 3 years, Mexican drug cartels are expected to expand their presence in Canada. That is a CBSA report that was written in November of 2016, 1 month before your government lifted the visa requirements. And you're saying you can't see any causal link to that? Is CBSA wrong, Minister?
First of all, I didn't read that report, Mr. Lloyd, and I'm not at liberty to speculate on the causal link.
Well, Minister, CBSA was correct. They correctly predicted that your government's actions would expand the cartel's presence in Canada. It's plain for everyone in this country to see. Your government was warned, and you recklessly chose to move ahead by lifting these visa requirements. Minister, do you accept responsibility for your government's failure in making Canada a base for organized crime?
Mr. Chair, my responsibility is the safety and security of Canadians, and that is a task that I take very seriously. And each and every day, I work to enhance and to ensure that the safety and security of Canadians are enhanced. This includes a number of measures that we've taken, including a number of bills, Bill C-2, Bill C-12, Bill C-9, Bill
I'm going to
C-8.
interrupt the Minister. I've given you some good time to respond there. Minister, if you can't see the causal link between lifting these visa requirements and the increase in cartel activity in Canada, why then did your government reimpose the visa requirements?
There were a number of considerations, as you're aware, Mr. Lloyd, post-COVID. There were some changes that we made. We had a number.
Were you advised that the lifting of these visas had caused an increase in crime and the implementation of these visas were necessary to staunch the stem of organized crime growth in Canada?
Mr. Lloyd, I wasn't the minister at that point, and I did not have that particular information.
Well, you're talking about borders today. This is a border, it's a critical issue in Canada. We just had a W5 report. You've listed 7 South American and Central American cartels as terrorist organizations, and you don't know and you can't say whether your government's policies are intended to stop those terrorist organizations from operating in Canada. You can't say whether or not lifting the visa requirements did cause it, Minister. How can you not know these answers?
What I can tell you, Mr. Lloyd, is that we made a decision to list 7 cartels as terrorist entities under the criminal code. It is a decisive step that's meant to curtail the influence and filtration of these cartels within Canada.
Give yourself 28 days and become the most dangerous person.
Is it just me, or does our safety minister seem like every other minister we have in a Liberal caucus? Somebody that just seems to be a result of the, what do they call it? The Paredes syndrome? Whatever it is. Basically, you're elevated to above your capabilities before having to fall back to what you were before. Being promoted beyond your capabilities, so to speak. Remember, we had a ruling on Friday regarding child stuff, right? Use that P word, and then they give your algorithm a kick in the pants. Anyway, so apparently the abuser was like gotten rid of his jail sentence for his evil, and you know, conservatives have been speaking out about it, and nothing. Bupkis from the Liberals. Bupkis from that guy we just saw. Our actual justice minister. Some justice minister we have there. Let's move on to our next panel. I believe our Prime Minister is the worst temporary foreign worker we've ever had. The 3 passport carrying member that we have. Oh, I see my camera's out. Laptop corner fade. Yes, and he said that he got rid of the passports. Don't believe him. Don't believe him at all. Remember, this is the same guy who said that he got rid of all his investments and only had cash and property. And then it turns out he's got this massive portfolio where 91% of his investments are in the U.S. And also, what did we find out today? Oh, yes. Trump now has a deal with China. That's right, they no longer have tariffs there. So Canada is now the last country on the planet incapable of achieving a trade deal with its largest trading partner. Apparently, we were friends for decades. Across the border, no problems. And then along comes our temporary foreign worker, corporate raider extreme, and his horrible monetary policy, which, by the way, Trudeau had been following for the past 5 years. Oh, he came back, well, I never told him to do that. Well, sorry, isn't that part of your resume? Saying, hey, okay. Let's listen to...
I'm going to blow your mind. You guys might have forgotten about a guy named Chandra Arya. He was actually the member of parliament who was elected 3 times and represented Nepean for almost a decade. He was in the running against Mark Carney to become the next Prime Minister of Canada and replace Justin Trudeau. They kicked him out. They gave him a letter, and they gave no reason. They just gave him the boot. But not only did they do that, they actually kicked him out of Nepean. They said he's been barred from running for re-election, and they accused him of working with India, despite there never being that allegation or report in the past. Now this is where it gets good. What you see behind me is Chandra Arya's former office. This is what it looks like because it's closed. You want to know why it looks like that? Because Mark Carney took it over. He took over the lease, and this is how much he's paying for the office rental each and every month since he's taken over that riding. And I know this because this is Chandra Arya's expense to the exact same company for the office rental space that I just showed you. Mark Carney is an elected member of parliament. He has no office. He took over Chandra's office after they booted him from the leadership race. They booted him completely from the Liberal Party, said you cannot go for re-election, take his office and leave it empty. Anyone that has any concerns in that riding in Nepean, they have to go to a neighboring riding.
I've covered this before, that Carney still doesn't have a constituency office. 7 months later, he can't do his job as Prime Minister. Everywhere he goes, we get worse trade deals. We get additional tariffs added to us. Now we're the last country on the planet that can't get a deal with the U.S., and he can't even be bothered to take care of his constituents. The man's a bloody billionaire, and he can't even afford to take care of his constituents. Now, whether or not they're actually going to other MPs in neighboring districts, Nepean is there in Ottawa, so they could just go, I guess, to the parliamentary office and go, hey, your constituency office is closed. Can I get some help, please? You're my MP. I don't know. Maybe that's what they do. I don't know. Like I said, Pierre had 2 offices open the next day in his riding. Now, a lot of people go on and they talk about Pierre Poilievre saying, oh, he lost his thing, and then he had to take the over there. They're always putting him down because of what he had to do to regain a seat in Parliament. But he didn't kick anybody out of their seat. That guy volunteered his seat and gave it to Pierre. So, and of course, the exact opposite happened here. And the mainstream media doesn't cover this kind of buffoonery, right? Because it makes their paymaster look bad. Yes, that's right. Don't forget now, this paymaster right here. This paymaster controls all when it comes to feeding the minds, especially of those boomers that still follow mainstream media. For our temporary foreign worker. Thank you, Mario, for reminding us. Now, a little piece here on COVID-era infringements. How are we doing on time? 2:04.
Weren't taken away. They weren't written off and dismissed. They've been suspended. And at any time, they can bring this back. And if any of this legislation that they're talking about comes through now, we could all be literally mandated to be taking vaccines again as early as next year.
In this particular case, these issues affect every single Canadian, not just those Canadians that chose not to have a COVID-19 vaccine.
It has been 4 years since then Prime Minister Justin Trudeau introduced a travel ban that barred millions of Canadians from boarding planes or trains without the then still in clinical trials COVID-19 shot. And 2 ordinary men, not politicians or activists, refused to let that chapter close quietly. Carl Harrison and Sean Ricard are taking the government to federal court, determined to ensure the charter infringements from that travel mandate never happens again. Their latest case will be heard this Monday, November 3rd in Toronto, but to understand how it began, we have to rewind to 2021, when 2 Canadians, frustrated by government overreach, decided to act.
Back in
It's a good story. I suggest that if you're interested, you go and listen to it at Rebel News. It's a reminder of what the government did to us back then and what they are ready to do to us at any moment again. Remember, the Liberals have no respect for you. No respect for your rights, no respect for freedom, no respect for freedom of speech, and certainly no respect for the Charter, because the first thing they wanted to do was get rid of the notwithstanding clause so they can get further control over the provinces. Remember, they've done nothing to solve the crime on our streets. They've had 7 months, and all they've done is spend more money, fill their pockets of themselves and their friends even more. Oh, but they have big promises. They have big promises. Oh, please, please don't take our job away. Please, please don't force us to have a Christmas election. Oh, please, what do you think of the children? Let's see. Let's listen to some more of this.
People need to understand that this case now is probably more important than it ever was, in the fact that they can bring this back at any time. These mandates.
Sorry, I thought I had a second. There we go. Right.
Vaccine injury support program, the so-called safety net for those who suffered after doing what they were told was safe and effective. Newly released government documents that I've obtained through access to information paint a picture that it's less about helping victims and more about helping administrators get rich. Let's dig in. The federally implemented vaccine injury support program called VISP was supposed to provide fair and timely financial support to individuals who experience a serious and permanent injury caused by a Health Canada approved vaccine. Yet VISP has proven to be a bureaucratic nightmare, riddled with delays, inconsistencies, and red tape, failing to deliver fair or timely access to the very Canadians it was meant to help. Instead, it's buried suffering Canadians under mounds of paperwork, funneled through a maze of gatekeepers, and ultimately left to the discretion of an elusive medical review board. That's if victims can even get their injuries formally recognized through Canada's multi-layered and heavily filtered passive vaccine injury system known as preface. As our exclusive reporting at Rebel News, made possible through your generosity and support at rebelinvestigates.com, has uncovered, this so-called support program has been little more than a filibuster from the start. Now these newly released documents detail
Tamara does awesome work on this file. Again, go watch her videos. Now that's, what were they saying there about the COVID vaccine adverse events getting recognized? I've talked about this before. Staff members can't seem to get their vaccine injuries recognized. And it was a 3-year window from the moment they got injured to the time they could apply a VISP. And now that 3-year window is out the window now, right? And of course, we know adverse events can happen at any time following that issue. We're looking at statements from the members. We're only 209. And the other part is the way the system that she's talking about there, the one that makes it almost impossible to get your vaccine injury recognized, it was done on purpose because from the onset, they said, oh, we can't be recognized vaccine injuries. That might cause vaccine hesitancy. Right? We can't recognize that the vaccine is injuring and unaliving people because that might cause them not to want to take it. Right? Is we can't talk about the exploding gas tank in the Pinto because that might want people not to buy Pintos. Right? What a lovely bunch of coconuts. And there is this massive campaign online to try to get people to ignore the fact that all these adverse events that they are suffering are caused by the injection. They're all going on about, oh, no, these are all caused by the virus. They're not caused by the injection. No, whatsoever. We need a multi-layered approach to protect your kids for COVID. COVID's not over, folks. COVID's not over. That's right. The fear porn must continue. The terror. The vaccine terror must continue. If you don't take it as part of your multi-layered approach, you could be in danger. You could suffer long time. That's why I have this up here, because they're all going on also about wearing masks. Masks that really is only going to reduce the amount of oxygen going into your cake hole, which is fine if you want to keep from breathing on people and spitting on them. Right? And I'm not talking about people that have existing immunocompromised issues that want to filter the air that's going into their body. I fully understand. If you're immunocompromised and you want to protect yourself, you do whatever the hell you want. But this constant blending of pushing mask wearing to protect people from seasonal flus is insane. Absolutely insane. Because it offers no protection whatsoever. You're never going to get that seal. You are never going to get that seal. The only way to get that seal is by having a nice, tight rubber fit. And when you get that nice, tight rubber fit, you have to do a fit test. And you have to do a fit test on a regular basis. And that means that fit test that you did it, if you did it on shaved skin, especially if you're a man, you need to keep that skin shaved in order to have that proper fit test. If just 0.01% of the people that go on about wearing masks stepped into a gas chamber, and I'm talking about a training gas chamber, all right? I'm not talking about, I know nothing about the ovens, I'm just a baker. I'm talking about training gas chambers where they go in with riot gas and you have to practice wearing a gas mask. And as part of the practice, you have to take that mask off and put it back on, or you walk in without the mask and you have to do drills and you have to put it on, you have to breathe out and everything. And if just that small percentage of people went out there and actually did that, they would understand the stupidity that they think they are protecting themselves with a mask when the particles that are going to be invading you and making you tear up in that gas chamber are way bigger than what these tiny viruses are. And you think you're protecting yourself with the mask. Meanwhile, all your body parts are exposed. And your eyeballs, probably. People are losing their minds because they've been conditioned now through fear. Fear has been the #1 tool that they have been using since 2020 to control people. How are we doing here? We still got a couple more minutes. They're still doing statements by members. Let's listen to Mario.
To show you the impact that you all have. I made a video that talked about how Rogers Communications, through their contractor Ericsson, is outsourcing jobs to India to manage our critical infrastructure. Here's how much it mattered to Canadians. 300,000 plus 513, that's 815, plus another 85, that's 900, this is now 1 million. We have nearly 1.3 million views of Canadians watching this, sharing this, who are also concerned about this. The reason I'm telling you this is action is now being taken. The Conservative Party just wrote a letter to Melanie Joly. As you can see, it talks about the 115 operation technicians who hold root-level access to Rogers Communications networks and giving all these systems, including emergency services, 911 networks, and real-time data transmission to people in India. Both Raquel Doncho and Kyle Seaback penned this letter asking Melanie Joly to take steps to suspend this.
Now, MP Raquel Doncho actually had Melanie Joly in committee this morning, raking her over the coals. So I don't know if she got an answer to this, because from what I watched a little bit of it, it's typical. There was just a roundabout, not really getting to the answer. And the question was, were the 3,000 jobs guaranteed in the billions of dollars you gave to Stellantis? And as it turns out, Couldn't get a direct answer. Oh no, there's 3 contracts and they're connected, and you have to look at all of them, and you will see them because we will give them to you, and you will see how they're all connected, and blah 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 blah. And there's nothing that says yes right there with the connection. There was 3,000 guaranteed jobs, but that's not there, right? Because they're playing it. They're pushing it right to the last. They're kicking a can down the roads like they always do, avoiding the truth as long as they can. Now let's bring up our description of oh, are we starting? Do I have time to do the description? Oh no, it looks like we are starting. Okay, sorry about the glitch. This is your government money at work. Well,
Brookfield as Canada's biggest tax dodger. Experts have revealed that Brookfield avoided paying more than $6.5 billion in Canadian taxes over 5 years by funneling profits through offshore tax havens in Bermuda and the Cayman Islands. As chair of Brookfield, the Prime Minister personally set up 3 multi-billion-dollar investment funds registered offshore. Let's not forget, the Prime Minister still stands to personally benefit from these offshore funds through future bonus payments. While the Prime Minister lectures middle-class Canadians about paying their fair share, his company is dodging billions in tax dollars that could be supporting Canadian services like healthcare. This is the height of hypocrisy. Canadians deserve a Prime Minister who puts the country first, not his personal bank account.
The honourable member for St. Catharines.
so we're not into the questions yet. Obviously, we're still in statements by members. And let me bring up our description. I should be better prepared for this. All right. Let us bring up our scoreboard. Fade that in. All right. The Q, obviously, is the question by non-government MPs. Because next is the FBQ, the freebie question given by the government to the government. Self-licking ice cream cone of a question designed to make the government look good. Next is the NAP, the no answers, period. Which includes an incomplete answer hiding inconvenient facts, a non-answer not related to the question, any lie or exaggeration. And it looks we are starting.
Oral questions, questions orales. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Tomorrow will be the 10th costly Liberal budget to be tabled over a decade that has skyrocketed the cost of living for Canadians. The PM is once again asking for sacrifices for Canadians who are paying too much. For the Conservatives, it's simple. If the budget brings down the cost of living, we'll vote for it. But if the budget just further increases the cost of living, we're going to vote against it. Instead of causing a costly election for a costly budget, why not table an affordable budget for an affordable life? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, obviously we're listening to the members of the opposition, and good news, Mr. Speaker. I think I've just learned that the opposition leader will order all of his colleagues to vote for the budget because, yes, it will be an affordable budget, and yes, it will build Canada, and yes, the budget will make Canadians very proud. So we welcome the support of the Conservative Party and the Leader of the Opposition.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, for 10 years now, the Liberals have been making the same promises. the finance minister was the Minister of Industry previously, and he gave us the greatest drop in investment in Canada after promising that they would promote investment. And what happened? It doubled the debt, doubled lineups at food banks, and doubled the cost of housing. So instead of forcing Canadians to make more sacrifices and triggering a costly election on a costly budget, why not table an affordable budget for an affordable life? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, it will be an affordable budget for an affordable life, and not only that, it will be one that opens the door wide to opportunities for Canadians and young Canadians across our country. People in the trades, for Canadian softwood and steel and aluminum. We are going to build this beautiful big country affordably and do something, Mr. Speaker, that will be historical by building a better Canada.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, tomorrow will be the 10th costly Liberal budget after they doubled housing costs, doubled food bank lineups, and doubled the national debt. Now they're making exactly the same costly promises. And the Prime Minister says Canadians who can't afford to eat, heat, or house themselves need to make more, quote, sacrifices. The choice for us is simple. If a budget brings down the cost of living, we'll support it. If it brings up the cost of living, just like every other Liberal budget, we will vote no. So instead of trying to provoke a costly election on a costly budget, why not an affordable budget for an affordable life?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, you know, obviously we've listened attentively to what the opposition have to say, and I think I just heard good news. The Leader of the Opposition saying that he's going to order his troops and himself, and they'll walk in here and support this great, affordable, Liberal budget that's coming down tomorrow, a budget that brings down taxes for Canadians, a budget that brings down taxes and GST for first-time home buyers, a budget that makes life more affordable and creates opportunities for young people all over this country, a generational budget, and a budget that I know will be glad to have the support of the Leader of the Opposition.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, they've been making those promises for the last 9 Liberal budgets, which doubled housing costs and drove 2.2 million people to the food bank because of higher grocery prices. So if he wants to take ideas for an affordable budget, an affordable life, here's one. There's the Liberal industrial carbon tax, which applies to the steel, cement, and other inputs to build homes. And it applies to the farmers and their fertilizer and equipment. So will the Prime Minister, instead of provoking an unnecessary election, get rid of the industrial carbon tax so we can bring down food and housing costs?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it was going so well up till now. We still have hope, though, that this Leader of the Opposition won't want to send Canadians, including our great farmers, to the polls over the Christmas season. The Leader continues to bring up these imaginary taxes. We'd be happy to explain to him once again that farmers in this country are mostly exempt from any of those industrial carbon taxes, Mr. Speaker. The budget will be affordable. The budget will be great. The budget will build this country and build opportunities for farmers, for young people, and all Canadians.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, he's got to get his story straight. First, he started his answer by saying there is no industrial carbon tax, and then he finished it by saying the industrial carbon tax is great and doesn't cost anybody any money. He's got to decide which it is. Here's how it works for a Prime Minister who doesn't understand that Canadians need steel. The industrial carbon tax on steel, cement, plastic, and other inputs raises the cost of building homes. The tax on farm equipment and fertilizer raises the cost of food. So if they want an affordable budget for an affordable life, why not scrap this industrial carbon tax on food and homes?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, earlier this year, Canadians elected a new government with a strong mandate to build the strongest economy in G7. Tomorrow, We will table a generational budget, Mr. Speaker. We will invest less in government operations so we can invest more in Canada. We will build Canada. We will invest in Canadians. We will invest across this country from coast to coast to coast and build the strongest economy in the G7. It's time for the leader and his party to stop the rhetoric. Join us. Support this budget. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
That member has been in this Liberal government for 10 years, and he says that he's new, making the same promises that deficits will result in investment. Well, the last time the current finance minister promised that, what we saw is that investment dropped more than at any time in Canadian history, more than any other G7 country. But you know what went up? The cost of housing doubled. Food went up, doubling the number of people in food bank lineups, and they doubled the national debt. So, why not an affordable budget for an affordable life by getting rid of the industrial carbon tax on food and homes for a change?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, you can't make this up. That member's been in this House for 20 years. He's sat in opposition now for 10 years and has not supported one affordability measure this government has put forward. Mr. Speaker, we have cut taxes for 22 million Canadians. We have cut the tax for first-time home buyers. We are moving forward, Mr. Speaker, for automatic federal benefits, getting benefits of 5.5 million Canadians. They do nothing but vote against affordability measures. He's been in this House for 20 years. He has produced nothing. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Saint Jean. Mr. Speaker, we're 24 hours away from the budget, and the government still hasn't moved beyond threatening to call an election. And frankly, the public is not impressed. It voted for a minority government, and a minority government works with other parties to get its budget passed. The government has 3 potential supporters to choose from. So it's ridiculous that with only 24 hours to go before the budget, the Liberals still aren't negotiating and they're content to threaten an election at Christmas. Will they finally respect the will of the people and get to work? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, I think that the member wouldn't mind if I congratulate all of the candidates for the municipal elections in Quebec and the winners that were on the platforms yesterday. In terms of our talks, the member knows full well that we've had wonderful discussions with her leader, with her and other members of her team. We're listening, and we have listened, as well as the 44 Quebec members from the Liberal Party, and we're listening to the opposition, including the Bloc, and I hope that everyone will see their aspirations reflected in the budget. The Honourable Member for Saint Jean. Mr. Speaker, they're listening, but they're not hearing. People don't want an election, but what they did want was a minority government, and if they had wanted the Liberals to behave like monarchs, they would have given them both hands on the wheel. But for 3 consecutive elections, voters have been telling them, work with the opposition and negotiate. 2019, 2021, 2025, same result. And here they are again, threatening elections instead of working. After 3 elections and just 24 hours before the budget, isn't it time for the Liberals to get the message? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, the government was elected 6 months ago, and 6 months to come up with a budget plan to build Quebec and create opportunities for Quebecers and Canadians across the country from one coast to another. Well, there will be projects in this budget tomorrow, an investment that will be there. It will create opportunities for young people and people from Quebec and elsewhere. And I think Bloc members, just like all the other members in this House, will see their aspirations and hopes for Canada reflected in a document that will build Canada. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Saint-Hyacinthe-Bagoacton. Mr. Speaker, the conflict with Washington is far from over. The Liberals have even gone so far as to apologize on our knees when we are the ones suffering from tariffs. And since this won't end anytime soon, why is the priority in the budget tomorrow will not be to support Canadians? We've made 6 requests related to the needs of Quebecers: money for health, fair pensions for seniors, transfers for housing and infrastructure, loans for home ownership, and $814 million refunds to Quebecers. Tomorrow, the Liberals have a choice. Will they respond to the needs of Quebecers? The Honourable Minister of Industry. The answer is simple. I could just say yes and sit down. But since my colleague also referred to the fact that we still are having discussions with the government, yes, we are at the negotiating table in the U.S., and we expect the Americans to meet with us. But in the meantime, we're going to continue to the support sectors, including forestry in his sector, the automotive sector. We know that steel and aluminum and softwood lumber as well. So we'll be there for workers with a consequential budget. Thank you.
Member for Thornhill.
Another day and another grim headline confirming what Canadians already know. 10 years of liberal economics have driven this country to the brink. In the GTA, 85% say now it's too expensive to live and work in their own communities. And they're right. The Liberals doubled the debt, they maxed out the national credit card, and they handed Canadians a bill through inflation and crushing taxes. Their carbon tax, their fuel standard, the plastic ban make it more expensive to grow, move, and buy food. Will they finally admit their policies punish the very people they're trying to help and use tomorrow's budget to scrap these hidden food taxes once and for all?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Our new government will deliver its first budget tomorrow focused on making generational investments to unlock jobs and opportunities, to boost productivity and growth, to build housing infrastructure and defense, to attract $500 billion in new private investment, to double trade with non-U.S. countries, and to move from reliance to resilience. We're making responsible investments while reducing operational spending. This is how we build the strongest economy in the G7. Tomorrow's budget will empower Canadians because this is your country, and we decide what comes next.
The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
The minister talks like the government's money belongs to him, and every dollar they spend comes right out of the pockets of Canadians. And to the 85% in the GTA who say they can't afford life, they call these taxes imaginary. They aren't imaginary when you're staring at your own credit card bill. The government's job is to listen to Canadians, not lecture them or gaslight them or threaten an election to distract them from the failures. Instead of trying to cause a costly election on a costly budget, why not an affordable budget for an affordable life here?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
An affordable budget for an affordable life is exactly what we'll deliver tomorrow on Budget Day. Conservatives have referenced the need to address productivity and GDP per capita for years. Well, good news. The head of the IMF has said diversifying trade and investing in infrastructure, housing, and defense will, in fact, boost productivity. And the Bank of Canada governor has said that this is the only way to make life more affordable. Conservatives don't seem to want to make life more affordable now. Will they vote to support our budget or vote for a Christmas election?
The Honourable Member for Battleford's Lloydminster, Meadow Lake.
Mr. Speaker, a costly budget means a costly life for Canadians. Every dollar this Liberal government spends comes out of Canadians' pockets through higher taxes and inflation. Hidden taxes like the Liberals' industrial carbon tax, their fuel standards, and food packaging tax are all driving up the cost of groceries. The packaging tax alone will cost the food industry $5.6 billion and drive up the price of produce by 34%. Will the Prime Minister stop trying to engineer a costly election and instead scrap the food packaging tax?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, here we go again with the imaginary taxes that the party opposite makes up. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we are focused on affordability for Canadians. We are going to cut taxes for 22 million Canadians. We are cutting the GST for first-time homebuyers. We are cutting the consumer carbon tax. We are going to build houses at a scale not seen since the Second World War. We are going to have automatic federal benefits for 5.5 million Canadians. Will the party opposite stop with the rhetoric? It's time for all of us in this House to come together, support a generation.
The Honourable Member for Battleford's Lloydminster, Meadow Lake.
Mr. Speaker, Ottawa Public Health is now reporting that 1 in 4 families are food insecure, and even baby formula is out of reach for many parents. That's the reality after 10 years of costly Liberal deficits and taxes. Food banks are overwhelmed and Canadians are struggling to put food on the table. Instead of cutting costs, the Liberals keep raising food prices with their hidden taxes. So, Mr. Speaker, I'll ask again, will the Prime Minister stop trying to engineer a costly election and finally scrap the food packaging tax?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Once again, we find members opposite worried about imaginary taxes, when on this side of the House we are focused on solutions. The budget will make permanent the National School Food Program, which represents $800 in savings for families each year. This is one of the many investments that we are making on this side of the House to ensure kids have the best start in life and that families can get ahead. We hope you'll join us and support the budget. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Long Range Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, every dollar this government spends comes out of the pockets of Canadians through higher taxes and inflation.
That's right.
They're taxing food at every stage, from farm to fork, with their industrial carbon tax, their fuel regulations, and their plastics ban. The Liberals' fuel regulations alone will raise the cost of gas and diesel by up to 17 cents a litre and cost the economy $9 billion. Newfoundland and Labrador families are already feeling it, saying getting ahead feels impossible. Will the Prime Minister stop trying to engineer a costly election on a costly budget and instead scrap the fuel tax?
The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, it's time that we really set the record straight. We have the members from the opposite party getting up time and time again and talking about taxes that simply do not exist. Let's be very clear. There is no plastics wrapping tax. It doesn't exist, and they should actually be honest with their citizens and their voters that it doesn't exist.
The Honourable Member for Long Range Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, while the Liberals make excuses, food bank use in Canada has exploded.
That's right.
The new hunger count report shows over 2.2 million monthly visits, a 5% increase from last year, double since 2019. 1 in 5 food bank clients have jobs, but they still can't afford to feed their families. In Newfoundland and Labrador, local food banks are overwhelmed. Families are lining up earlier, leaving with less because the shelves are bare. Once again, Mr. Speaker, will the Prime Minister stop trying to engineer a costly election on a costly budget and instead scrap the fuel tax?
Good job. The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
I want to say to the colleague from Newfoundland and Labrador in the opposition, there is no fuel tax. It's imaginary taxes on food. What I want to say clearly is the measures that we have in place, $10 a day childcare in our province, is allowing moms to stay in the workforce, dads in the workforce. I was in my riding this weekend and spoke about the importance of the new program in the budget about training workers, construction and healthcare, getting our young people to work. This is affordability.
The Honourable Member for Montmorency-Charlevoix. Mr. Speaker, in Quebec, families can no longer pay for groceries, and in my riding, workers and retirees have to choose between paying for food, transportation, or rent. Every dollar spent by this Liberal government comes directly out of the pockets of Canadians. And they also add to things with their ideological hidden taxes on food. The industrial carbon tax, the plastics tax, and the clean fuel regulations. Can the Prime Minister stop trying to provoke a costly election with a costly budget and once and for all eliminate these ideological food taxes? The Honourable Minister of Industry. Mr. Speaker, what I call ideology is when they develop these new imaginary taxes to try to spread falsehoods in the population. My colleague knows there's no grocery tax, but what is clear is that the government is working on affordability, and that's why we're here to protect the social safety net in Canada. What does that mean? Daycare. It means support for pharmacare and health care. And what is clear, and that's what my colleagues on the other side don't do, we are going to build Canada because in terms of affordability, people want jobs, and we're going to provide jobs. The Honourable Member for Joliette. Mr. Speaker, it's not just his new shoes that the Minister of Finance has made themselves. He also manufactured the entire election crisis on the eve of the budget. His government held no consultations. No witnesses were heard at committee. He responded to none of the opposition's requests, and there still have not been any negotiations between the parties. And all he's done 24 hours before the budget is to threaten an election. Instead of buying new shoes today or making new shoes, why isn't the minister working on making a deal to get his budget passed? The Honourable Minister, I think it's important to correct what my honourable colleague has just said. There's more than 28,000 people who participated in these pre-budgetary consultations. We've had many conversations with the opposition, including the Bloc, and I had conversations with myself and many of my colleagues, as did the Minister of Finance. We involved all the parties in this House, and there'll be important investments in many sectors. And the question is, what will the Bloc do? Will they vote to support Quebecers and all Canadians, or will they vote against this budget? Thank you. The Honourable Member for Joliette. Mr. Speaker, it's like the grasshopper and the ant. The Liberals sang all summer long, and with only 24 hours to go before the budget, they find themselves caught off guard. So they threaten elections, they want to play with the numbers and make partisan attacks. Yet, Mr. Speaker, they know that the Bloc would ask for money for health care. That's our #1 priority for Quebecers. And they knew we'd ask for an increase in seniors' pensions. We've been asking for it for 4 years. The Liberals have known all our demands for ages. So with only 24 hours to go before the budget, will they support us, yes or no? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, tomorrow's budget will see major investment in infrastructure, major investment in technology to create jobs across our country, including in Quebec and in all regions of Quebec. The question is to know whether the Bloc, what they will do. Will they support Quebec? Will they work with us during these tough times, or will they choose to send us to an election? That's my question for the Bloc, Mr. Speaker.
Calgary East. All of the Liberal government spends comes out of the pockets of hardworking Canadians through higher taxes and inflation. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister is forcing young Canadians to sacrifice more so he can spend more. A costly budget leads to a costly life for Canadians. Liberals promised a $42 billion deficit. If the Prime Minister really is spending less, the deficit will be lower. Instead of trying to cause a costly election on a costly budget, why not an affordable budget for an affordable life?
The Honourable Minister for Emergency Management and Community Resilience.
Mr. Speaker, as a fellow Albertan, I know families want more than just to get by. They want good jobs, stable incomes, and a fair shot at building a better life. That's exactly what we're focused on. Last year, the Prairies Development Agency helped create more than 9,000 jobs in Alberta. Budget 2025 keeps that momentum going. Conservatives can support it and help grow Alberta's economy, or keep voting against the opportunities that Albertans and Canadians deserve.
Shame on contempt.
The Honourable Member for Calgary East.
I can promise that Albertans would not be happy with that answer, because 9 costly inflationary Liberal budgets gave Canadians double deficit, double debt, double food bank usage, double rents, double mortgages, and double inflation. What Canadians don't want is this Prime Minister to double down on the same failed policies that sent 2.2 million Canadians into a food bank every single month. So instead of trying to cause a costly election on a costly budget, why not an affordable budget for an affordable life?
Yeah! The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Conservatives keep talking and talking and talking about affordability. But when it comes to vote, they oppose the very measures that create jobs and strengthen local economies. We're delivering real results, thousands of new jobs, real investments in prairie communities, and stronger paychecks for Alberta families. If Conservatives actually care about helping families make ends meet, they should support Budget 2025 and the jobs it will create for Albertans and all Canadians. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton West.
Speaker, every dollar this government spends comes out of the pockets of Canadians at higher taxes and higher inflation. The Prime Minister is giving billions to Liberal connector insiders with consultants, and yet at the same time is telling young Canadians they have to sacrifice more. He's promised to cap spending at a 2% increase, but he's actually growing it by 8%. And who is paying for this inflationary spending? It's the 2 million Canadians lining up at food banks every month. So instead of trying to cause a costly election on a costly budget, why not deliver an affordable budget for an affordable life?
Here, here. The Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
Make a real difference in fighting food insecurity, Mr. Speaker. Seniors being able to access the benefits that they're entitled to. That's why we're going to make it easier for 1 million lower-income Canadians to access the benefits that they've worked so hard for with automatic tax filing. We're going to make sure that Canadians, especially older Canadians, keep their hard-earned money with the first national anti-fraud strategy. And what does Alma from Marathon, Ontario say about the strategy? Great news, yet again, by our amazing government. Thanks for always taking care of things that matter to Canadians. And we, Mr. Speaker, will continue to protect and empower Canadians like Alma.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, after a delay of more than a year, the Liberal government will finally table its budget tomorrow. Since this Prime Minister took office, the Liberals have doubled the deficit, and $48 billion worth of investments have gone up in smoke. My question is simple to the Prime Minister. Will his budget propose concrete measures to eliminate indirect taxes on basic food products? And also, does he know that instead of calling an expensive, a costly election, he should table an affordable budget for an affordable life? The Honourable Minister, while the Conservatives spend QP after QP talking about taxes, we are laser focused on programs that will have a concrete effect on Canadians' lives. There's the school food program, for example, School for All. This is having a major impact on the lives of thousands of Quebecers in the most underprivileged neighborhoods. And let them keep talking about imaginary taxes while we continue to build a strong economy. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, the C.D. Howe report, this is not imaginary taxes. The C.D. Howe gave the Liberal Party an F for its fiscal management. Even more embarrassing is the fact that this Prime Minister had promised Canadians he would keep the deficit under $42 billion. And now we see it's going to more than double. So given his finance experience, does the Prime Minister recognize the urgency of stopping his inflationary spending and to have an affordable budget? The Honourable Minister. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm looking forward to having my colleague listen to the budget tomorrow. It will include generational investments to build a stronger economy so that we can have social programs that support Canadians so that we can afford that. That's the big difference between us and the Conservatives. All they want to do, they wouldn't have the Canada Child Benefit, they wouldn't have school food, they wouldn't have dental care and so on. Here we believe in the economy and we want to build the economy so that we can help Canadians all across the country.
Don Valley East.
Mr. Speaker, I am proud to represent a riding with a vibrant Filipino-Canadian community who have contributed so much to Canada. Across the board, Canadians overwhelmingly support our government's work to help businesses grow and reach new customers around the world. That's why the Prime Minister and his government's efforts to be out there expanding trade ties are so important for building a strong, secure economy for the future. Could the Minister of International Trade please share how our government is strengthening Canada's foothold in the Indo-Pacific and what's at stake ahead of tomorrow's budget?
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Through you, I'd like to thank my colleague for important work on the Filipino Heritage Month, Mr. Speaker. Last week, I joined the Prime Minister in the Indo-Pacific, one of the fastest-growing regions in the world, to expand trade and investment opportunities for Canadians. We announced the launch of a Filipino, a Thailand free trade agreement, and led forward on the Canada-ASEAN FTA. Mr. Speaker, the numbers typically show that within 6 years of signing an FTA, trade doubles. That means more opportunities for Canadian workers here in Canada. This new government is laser focused on opening new markets, creating opportunities across the country, and expanding trade by double for non-U.S. exports. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Brantford, Brant South, Six Nations.
Mr. Speaker, on Friday, the Supreme Court struck down mandatory jail time for predators convicted of possessing child sexual abuse material. That decision is disgusting. These offenders weren't caught with a few files. They had hundreds of images and videos of children as young as 3 being tortured and abused. Yet instead of standing up for victims, this Liberal government stays silent. Why is this Prime Minister more interested in protecting pedophiles than protecting Canada's children from monsters? Shame!
The Honourable Secretary of State for combating crime.
Mr. Speaker, plain and simple, child abusers should face the toughest penalties under Canadian law. Child abusers are amongst the most reprehensible in our society, Mr. Speaker. That's why we've introduced sweeping reforms through Bill C-14 that make bail stricter and sentences tougher, and that make child sexual offenders serve time behind bars, Mr. Speaker. But let's not forget C-63. A Liberal government introduced that bill to protect kids online, but the Conservatives refused to support it. And a few months ago, we brought...
I wouldn't be pontificating. The honourable member for Brantford, Brant South, Six Nations.
With these Liberals, why do charter rights of pedophiles come before charter rights of children? Shamefully, every single member of this party, including the Minister of Justice, remains silent. Crickets! This ruling means pedophiles with hundreds of videos of children being sexually assaulted can escape mandatory jail. You can't claim to stand for victims while you defend a system that shields the predators. Why won't this Prime Minister call the ruling what it is? Disgusting, and commit to restoring mandatory jail time for pedophiles.
The Honourable Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, we are not silent on this issue. That is why we've introduced sweeping reforms under Bill C-14 to make bail stricter and sentences tougher, and we are making sure that child sexual offenders serve time behind bars, Mr. Speaker. But let's not forget the conduct of the Conservatives, Mr. Speaker. They refused to support C-63, which would help protect our children against online crime, online predators. And a few months ago, they refused to support lawful access, which will help police catch pedophiles, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, order, please. Order. Order. Hello.
Not one minister said a word.
Okay. Okay. We have to move on to the honourable minister, l'honorable.
The honourable member for Bellechasse-Letchemin-Lévis. Mr. Speaker, the Supreme Court's decision declaring mandatory minimum sentences unconstitutional leaves us speechless. A person with 317 images of children, including girls aged from 3 to 10 years old. It's our view that it's necessary to have mandatory minimum sentences. Well, frankly, Mr. Speaker, how can the Liberals protect criminals instead of children? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Justice. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Crimes against children are among the most serious and hateful crimes in our society. Child abusers need to get the toughest sentences under Canadian law. In the coming weeks, the government will be taking new steps based on our election platform to crack down on these heinous crimes. This Friday, we know there will be Bill C-242, and there will be nothing about getting rid of these sentences. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-les-Etchemins-Lévis. Mr. Speaker, the government has a heavy responsibility to protect its citizens, especially the most vulnerable among us, like kids. The government introduced Bill C-14, which could have brought back mandatory minimums and done some good, but no, that's not what they did. Criminals are going to continue to get away with it. This has just been confirmed by the Supreme Court. Why is this government more concerned with protecting pedophiles than protecting the rights of children, Mr. Speaker? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Justice Minister. Mr. Speaker, each child, every child in Canada deserves to be protected from exploitation and fear. Our government will always protect children with the strictest and toughest of laws and measures to support victims. Mr. Speaker, in the weeks to come, our government will be tabling legislation to protect children, and there will also be debate this Friday on Bill C-242, which doesn't anywhere talk about mandatory sentences.
For Carlton Trail, Eagle Creek.
Every dollar the Liberal government spends comes out of the pockets of Canadians in the form of higher taxes and inflation. A costly budget will lead to a costly life. While Canadians are lining up at food banks, this Liberal government is using their money to hand out bonuses. The Business Development Bank got $60 million, EDC $45 million, CMHC $30 million. Wow. Instead of trying to cause a costly election on a costly budget, why not an affordable budget for an affordable life?
Here, here.
The Honourable... Please, order, members, order. The Honourable Secretary of State for Rural Development.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Weeks, Mr. Speaker, I've been trying to learn French, but I want to say to the people of Canada, when we see a lot of measures that we're undertaking as a government to make life more affordable, we see opposition from the opposition on really good measures, Mr. Speaker. So I've learned in English to say, you are the problem, and in my native language of Cree, and now I've learned in French, tu es le problem.
You are the problem.
Because the bottom line is...
You know, in the past, members have invoked references to language and different contexts, and it can sometimes be a sensitive issue. So I think we should leave out references to different languages and how you know, some people understand one, don't understand the other. The Honourable Member for Carlton Trail, Eagle Creek.
Hundreds of millions of dollars in excessive bonuses to failed Liberal insiders drives up inflation, and Canadians are paying the price. 2.2 million food bank visits, 700,000 are children. Rent has doubled. The food bank in Saskatoon is moving locations to keep up with the rising demand as it's, and I quote, bursting at the seams. Canadians can't afford homes, they can't afford food. Instead of trying to cause a costly election on a costly budget, why not an affordable budget for an affordable life?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Rural Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For 10 long years, we send 14 Conservative MPs to Ottawa. That's 140 years.
We're going to have to start from the top on that. I mean, there was nothing provocative in the Secretary of State's answer. I don't know why it was generating so much reaction. The Honourable Secretary of State from the top, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. For 10 long years, we sent 14 Conservative MPs to Ottawa. That's 140 140 collective years that they have not stood up for Saskatchewan, nor voted for any positive members to help with the affordability issue across this country, Mr. Speaker. They can help today by voting for this budget. And if they want a Christmas election, Mr. Speaker, remember that Santa Claus wears red. Thank you.
The honourable member for Leduc-Wetaskiwin.
Let's remember that Santa Claus isn't spending taxpayer dollars, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, every single dollar the Liberal government brags about spending comes from the pockets of hardworking Canadians in the form of higher taxes and inflation. While Canadians line up at food banks in record numbers, their own money is being used by this Liberal government to hand out hundreds of millions of dollars in executive bonuses. Point in case, last year, 100% of Via Rail executives got bonuses averaging $110,000. Wow. This is incomprehensible and irresponsible. Instead of trying to provoke a costly election with another costly Liberal budget, why not an affordable budget for an affordable life for all Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Speaker, what Canadians expect of us is to invest in them, to invest in their families, to invest in the futures of their children, and that's exactly what this budget will do, Mr. Speaker. It will make sure that not only are we creating the jobs of today, but we're creating the jobs of tomorrow, and we're ensuring that young people have the skills to get those jobs in partnership with unions, with the Canadian building trades, Mr. Speaker, to make sure that everybody has a fair chance. That's what Canadians expect, and that's why they trust us, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Leduc-Wetaskiwin.
Mr. Speaker, in 2015, the New York Times reported that Canada had the richest middle class in the world. Just a decade later, our country is in an economic tailspin. Do you know what happened in 2015, Mr. Speaker? This Liberal government took power, and many of their current ministers, including the finance minister, were elected. And here's where we are today. During an epic housing crisis, 99% of CMHC executives got bonuses, averaging $43,000. How is that okay? How is it that Canada, under their watch, went from the richest middle class in the world to a country where many middle-class Canadians can't afford housing?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, do you know what else happened since 2015? 400,000 children have been lifted out of poverty through the Canada Child Benefit. 22 million Canadians this year will receive a tax credit. Mr. Speaker, we are working with Canadians on the things that they have told us are a priority. That's why Canadians trust this Liberal government. That's why they deeply distrust the Conservative Party of Canada.
Member for Saskatoon West.
Mr. Speaker, every dollar the Liberal government spends comes out of the pockets of Canadians in the form of higher taxes and inflation. At CMHC, executives each receive bonuses of $43,000. Even more ridiculous, Via Rail executives got $110,000 each. While the Liberals reward insiders, they're asking young Canadians to sacrifice more, driving many of them to food banks. In Saskatoon, food bank usage is up 49% over pre-COVID levels, with children accounting for 38% of those users. Instead of trying to cause a costly election on a costly budget, why not an affordable budget for an affordable life?
The Honourable Minister for the Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, it's just so tiring to hear from the members opposite how they are against everything, including anything that includes fighting climate change. But you know what they should be for, and that I hope that they will support when they're looking at our budget? They should be looking at a national school food program that helps support young people when they're in schools. They should be there to help support Canadians. That is what we do on this side of the House. We shouldn't be always hearing from them and how they're against everything. Let's hear something positive. Let's hear a positive vote on the budget.
The Honourable Member, l'Honourable Député de Dorval.
The Honourable Member for Dorval, Lachine, La Salle. Mr. Speaker, Canada recently hosted our G7 partners in Toronto to advance the G7 Critical Minerals Alliance, international energy security, and the protection of our shared environment. Can the Minister explain how the Canada-led alliance will help stabilize prices for key minerals, protect us from coercive supply disruptions, and result in good jobs and cleaner, more affordable, and climate-competitive energy technologies for Canadians and Quebecers? Thank you very much. The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change. Thank you, and I thank you for the question. It was an honor for me and for the Minister of Energy and Natural Resources to host the G7 Energy and Environment Ministers meeting in Toronto. We discussed important things like secure supply, the circular economy, and critical minerals. Canada also secured 25 new investments, including several in Quebec, with 9 allied countries, to unlock $6.4 billion worth of critical minerals projects. And we agreed also on price stabilization tools.
Member for Halliburton, Kawartha Lakes.
For 10 years, the Liberals have promised that their massive deficits will lead to more jobs and investment in Canada. It hasn't. Tomorrow, we will see another budget packed with more inflationary spending. The result, Holseg Canada announced the closure of their Lindsay plant, putting 130 people out of work. After 10 years of this Liberal government, manufacturers are closing, costs are soaring, and investment is fleeing. And just the other week, the Prime Minister told Canadians that they need to be prepared to make sacrifices. For those families dealing with job loss, high grocery prices, and a housing market out of reach, what other sacrifices should Canadians be prepared to make?
Mr. Speaker, this budget will be about protecting jobs, making sure that we protect our communities. This budget will be about building Canada and creating new jobs across the country like we've never seen before. And this budget will be about empowering Canadians, making sure that they have trust and confidence in their future and in the prosperity of this country. And that's why the Conservatives should vote for it.
The honourable member for Halliburton, Kawartha Lakes.
Speaker, we have 130 people out of work in Lindsay, Ontario. That, combined with the latest hunger count report, shows Canadians are struggling like never before. Food bank visits hit 2.2 million in March, nearly double pre-pandemic levels. 1/3 of clients are children. Almost 1 in 5 have a job but can't make ends meet. Yet this government continues to impose hidden taxes, including the industrial carbon tax on fertilizer and farm equipment, which drives food prices even higher. Instead of trying to cause a costly election on a costly budget, why not table an affordable budget for an affordable life?
Hear, hear. Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we know there are trade tensions right now. We know that some tariff industries are particularly affected, and it will be my pleasure to work with my colleague to make sure that we're able to bring support to his community, particularly OSAG and OSAG workers. That being said, this budget will be doing just that, making sure that we protect jobs, making sure that we build the country, and making sure also that we empower Canadians. Looking forward to his support.
Hear, hear. The honourable member for York Durham.
Every dollar that this Liberal government spends comes out of the pockets of hardworking Canadians in the form of higher taxes and higher inflation. Take the hidden fuel standards tax, which will raise the price of gasoline by 17 cents a litre and diesel by 16 cents a litre. A tax on the trucker that delivers the food is a tax on the mom or the dad buying that food in the grocery store aisle. It's a tax on young Canadians. It's one more sacrifice that this Prime Minister is asking the next generation to make. Instead of a costly budget and a costly election, why not eliminate the fuel standards tax and bring forward an affordable budget for an affordable life?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Mr. Speaker, it is so tiring to hear about these imaginary taxes. Let's focus on reality. In reality, this budget that we'll be presenting tomorrow is going to be providing positive support for Canadians that they're looking for. They want us to build Canada. They want us to build it well. We want to talk about a cost to future generations. It's hearing from the opposite side about how they will do nothing to fight climate change. We are going to keep on standing up for Canada. We're going to keep on building Canada. We're going to build it well.
The honourable member for Hull-Aylmer.
Mr. Speaker, last week Canadians watched with horror as Hurricane Melissa, which was the strongest hurricane in the Caribbean's history, tore through the region, leaving widespread destruction in its wake. Hundreds of thousands of people were affected, lives were lost, homes and infrastructure were damaged and destroyed. Families were affected by the flooding and landslides. As the people of Jamaica, Cuba, and Haiti and across the region begin the difficult work of reconstruction and recovery, can the Secretary of State for International Development talk about what Canada is doing?
The Honourable Secretary of State for International Development.
Hurricane Melissa has left heartbreaking devastation in its wake, and we stand with the people of the Caribbean in this moment of crisis. Last week, we announced $7 million in emergency relief, allowing partners to scale up the delivery of food, water, health services, and other essential aid. This builds on long-standing work to strengthen disaster preparedness in the Caribbean and support for the United Nations Emergency Response Fund, which released an additional $8 million in assistance. And this weekend, a Canadian team was on the ground with the Caribbean and assessing what more Canada can do. Thank you.
Member for Cloverdale, Langley City.
Cloverdale's Maurizio Zanetti runs a Canadian-owned company that's doing everything right, feeding families, employing Canadians, and doing whatever he can to keep affordable food on our tables. But thanks to the Liberals' new front of packaging labeling rules, regulations that have nothing to do with food safety, he's now facing a $2.2 million compliance bill. Across the industry, the cost will top $100 million and prices are going to rise and contracts are being canceled, all because of red tape politics. So the Prime Minister, will he stop trying to engineer a costly election on a costly budget and instead scrap the costly labeling tax?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, imaginary tax after imaginary tax after imaginary tax. But when the Conservatives had the chance to stand up for families, whether it was to vote for school food programs, whether it's to vote for tax cuts for Canadians, whether it's to vote in the skilled trades training that provides those great paying jobs, I sure hope they're not going to vote against personal support workers' tax credits. But that's what it's looking like, Mr. Speaker. They're lining up to vote against what the things that Canadians need. They're driving for a Christmas election. It's so obvious. Mr. Speaker, when are they going to stand with Canadians?
The Honourable Member for Vancouver East.
The NDP secured $4.3 billion in funding to address urgent unmet housing needs for Indigenous, Inuit and Métis peoples living away from their home community. And NICHI, a national Indigenous-led organization, helped deliver that interim funding without a hitch. Many shovel-ready projects are desperate for the $4 billion long-term funding to flow, and with winter fast approaching, another construction season will be missed. Will the Prime Minister just let Indigenous Services task NICHI to get the funding out the door, or are they going to re-announce the $4 billion and pretend it's new funding in Budget 2025?
Good. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Generations of underinvestment and systemic discrimination have created a serious shortage of safe, affordable housing and supports for Indigenous peoples across Canada. Build Canada Homes will help address this by financing affordable housing at scale across the housing continuum, in collaboration with provinces, territories, and Indigenous partners. It offers flexible incentives to support non-market and Indigenous housing providers to build the affordable housing people need. Build Canada Homes is actively engaged with Indigenous governments, provinces, territories, and builders to identify early...
That concludes question period. It is 3:12, and the House will now proceed to the taking of the deferred recorded division of bills at report stage. For C3, calling the member.
All right. We've come to the end of the question period. Well, I see the court decision regarding child stuff came up during the Parliament. And I saw that Larry Brock, MP Larry Brock, he got pretty worked up there. The Speaker was standing. There was some bantering back and forth across the aisle. They were not impressed with the Liberals, and you could hear them saying, "Not a single minister has said anything," and that's true. That's what I mentioned earlier at the beginning of this program, is that these Liberals, these hug-a-thug Liberals, are very, very pro-criminal. There was a story I didn't get to. They ended up bringing in a criminal to coordinate with the government to figure out what their new laws are going to be. Not the victims. They didn't speak to any victims. They spoke to criminals to see how they could make the law better for criminals. That's how insane these Liberals are. And you could see they literally telling them what the taxes, what the fees are, what the packaging regulations are, right? And they just blatantly lied to them right in Parliament. These imaginary fees, I don't know what they're talking about. This is gaslighting on a massive scale. And like 99% of Canadians don't even bother watching Parliament. So they don't see this fuckery every day. Not at all. Not at all. Well, on our way out the door, let us go out with a video we put together yesterday, which is basically how obviously, well, that the Liberals, they want a Christmas election because they've engineered it this way. They've done this on purpose. They know that they've completely screwed the pooch when it comes economically. So all they need to do is just cobble together a budget that really doesn't do anything except really promote their own interests, right? And you can tell they're trying to sell it like it's necessary to help. And conservatives are bad people. They vote against all these socialist measures that we're bringing in because we've destroyed the economy. So we have to feed children. Yay for us! We destroyed the ability for parents to feed their own children. So let's feed their children for them and call it a celebration. Yes, let's celebrate the fact that we have to bring in all these measures by the government to spend money to help people after we destroyed their lives. But let's celebrate that because the conservatives are bad for voting against that. They don't understand. Well, they do understand. They know what they're doing. They're a kleptocracy. They're stealing from us. They're giving away to their friends. It's obvious, you can tell from the questions they're asking. And why are government workers getting bonuses? I never understood that. All those years I spent in the military, 38 years. I think the government gave us an extra $200 one year, and then I think they gave us another $500 a year another year. There might have been a third time in those 38 years where they said, hey, we had a little surplus. Let's give our troops a little extra. But that was it. That was it pretty well. And that was nice. I'm like, oh, I guess if, your buddies that have been appointed to positions to work in the government can get a couple $100,000 a year in a bonus, I guess so. I'm happy for $200. Yep, that's who these Liberals are. Constantly one hand in your pocket and your other hand close to where your pocket is. And of course, you like that kind of thing. Okay. So let us just fade out, and we will finish off the outro with the Sunday episode. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
If the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth.
And there's a celebration coming, and that's Christmas.
People who seem to want a Christmas election is this Liberal government.
With the leader of the opposition, that grinchy guy, time after time after time after time.
And help us avoid a Christmas election that absolutely nobody wants.
Will they vote for a Christmas election that nobody wants?
And not support our budget and cause a Christmas election?
Support the budget and avoid a Christmas election.
And pass our budget and not cause a Christmas election.
So we can avoid a very destructive budget, a very destructive election, rather. Trying to get this budget through so that we can avoid a Christmas election. This budget to pass and to avoid a Christmas election.
By supporting our budget on November 4th and avoiding a Christmas election.
I hope that they will join us in avoiding a Christmas election by supporting the budget.
Speaker, I hope the members opposite will support this budget, avoid a Christmas election.
And we trust they will join us and vote for the budget and avoid a Christmas election.
They can help us pass the budget and avoid a Christmas election. Will they do that?
The only thing more frightening this Halloween than the Conservatives' disinformation in this House is a Christmas election which nobody wants. They're going to force a Christmas election upon Canadians. There's nothing more spooky than that.
What world does the Prime Minister live in, expecting young people to make more sacrifices while he gives millions to the rich? Happy Halloween. And there's another celebration coming, and that's Christmas. At Christmas time, people look forward to that. It's been a big year for Canada, so this year in particular, people want to celebrate Christmas. So we're going to table a budget, and Canadians would like our Liberal plan, the Prime Minister's plan, to build a very strong country. They would like that budget to pass. So can my honourable colleague commit today not to be a Grinch and to vote for this budget? At Halloween, is the government House leader going to stop scaring Canadians? What Canadians want is an affordable budget for an affordable life. Does the Prime Minister realize that young families have nothing left to sacrifice? Everything we've put in place to make life more affordable for Canadians, the Conservatives have voted against.
How many more sacrifices do young Canadians have to make so the Prime Minister can keep lining the pockets of his elitist buddies?
Time after time after time after time, this member stands in his place and votes against it every single time, Madam Speaker.
If any of those programs actually work, 700,000 kids wouldn't be lined up at food banks every single month. When will the Prime Minister stop rewarding Liberal incompetence and actually give Canadians an affordable budget for an affordable life?
Speaker, it's Halloween, and we certainly want to wish a happy Halloween to all Canadians. There's another big holiday coming up. Canadians would like to have a Christmas, a holiday season in peace. No ads with the leader of the opposition, that grinchy guy, screaming at them through their television screens or their telephone screens, Madam Speaker. Mr. The finance critic on the other side should stand in his place right now and tell Canadians they can be off the hook. We're not going to have an election. We're going to vote for that great Liberal budget.
What sacrifices are these young people being asked to make while they get Liberal insiders rich bonuses?
I hope that they will join us in avoiding a Christmas election by supporting the budget. Thank you.
The question actually was about young Canadians and what they're going to be asked to sacrifice, which of course they didn't answer. Young Canadians are going to have to figure that out in the budget, and sacrifice they have. They've sacrificed by not being able to own a home. They've sacrificed by having generationally high youth unemployment. And this Liberal message is, we passed all these things. Things should be better, except they're not. 700,000 children now at a food bank despite their programs. Youth unemployment is the highest it's been in a generation despite their programs. Their programs aren't working, and their economics is driving young people into unemployment.
By supporting our budget on November 4th and avoiding a Christmas election.
It's Halloween, and the Liberals are trying to scare people. They're threatening to call an election if their budget isn't passed as is, but they're in a minority. But if they're the ones refusing to negotiate with anyone, aren't they the ones acting in bad faith? Yes, we obviously want this budget a Christmas election. The question to my colleague is he going to vote against a Christmas election in Quebec, or is he going to support the budget? For now, they're choosing to go it alone. They're not working with anyone. Why are they holding Quebecers hostage with threats of an election at Christmas instead of negotiating? So who's not showing a constructive attitude here? Someone who says, no matter what you do, I'm going to vote against it? Or is it the people who are listening and working with the opposition and trying to get this budget through so that we can avoid a Christmas election? So they're telling young people to make sacrifices, but meanwhile, they're spending $20 billion on consultants, much to the delight of the regime's cronies. Can this Prime Minister stop asking young Canadians to make sacrifices and finally table an affordable budget for an affordable life? To vote in favor of this budget so we can avoid a very destructive budget, a very destructive election, rather, at Christmas time. This government, over the past 10 years, has pushed 2.2 million people into the food banks. He's part of a government that has caused 700,000 kids to have to resort to food banks. Will this government take responsible action and table an affordable budget for an affordable life? The budget that will be tabled on November 4th is a responsible budget, and it's an ambitious one. Now is the time to take action.
But the Prime Minister told young Canadians they need to sacrifice. While Canadians are lined up at food banks, this Liberal government hired the Prime Minister's buddies to staff his new defence procurement and major projects offices. He's paying them $679,000 and $577,000 salary. Of course, he's paying the woman less. That's his track record. So this at a time when Canadians are struggling to afford to live. Will this Prime Minister stop making young people sacrifice so he can line the pockets of...
We're focused on affordability. We're focused on building Canada. Madam Speaker, on November 4th, we are going to come forth with a generational budget that will invest in Canada. We will But we are focused on affordability and building Canada. On November 4th, we will come forth with a generational budget that will invest in Canada. We will invest in Canadians. We will build this country because we believe in Canada.
Well, so far they've built a record-smashing 2.2 million food bank visits, and over 700,000 of those are children. 380,000 seniors are living in poverty. Ours. When will this Prime Minister stop using taxpayer dollars to make his rich friends richer and finally give Canadians an affordable budget for an affordable life?
Madam Speaker, we will take no lessons from the Conservatives. I hope the members opposite will join us and pass our budget and not cause a Christmas election.
Bonuses for Liberal elites. These taxpayer-funded payouts included $11 million for the fat cats at Via Rail, $30 million for the bureaucrats at Canada Mortgage and Housing, and $60 million for the bankers at the Business Development Bank, all while everyday Canadians struggle to afford the necessities of life. Instead of asking Canadians to sacrifice more, why doesn't the Prime Minister cut off insiders cashing in on Canadians' misery?
And then we encourage members opposite to support the budget and avoid a Christmas election.
It's impressive the Liberals are actually recognizing Christmas. Canadians are being asked to pull the wagon through the mud while Liberal cronies ride comfortably on top. The government isn't worried about families lining up at food banks. They're too busy lining the pockets of insiders. They're not bothered with cutting home prices. They're too focused on cutting checks to bumbling bureaucrats. They don't care about rising debt and inflationary deficits to reward his friends.
If the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth.
When are they finally going to stop their out-of-control spending and deliver an affordable budget for an affordable life?
Let's have a good budget, an affordable budget on November 4th, and let's have the support of the Conservatives opposite.
So, when is Ottawa finally going to take this problem seriously? The Bloc can vote in favor of that. They can help us pass the budget and avoid a Christmas election. Will they do that? But the heart of the problem is getting those drivers off our roads. They're dangerous and they don't follow the rules. When will Ottawa finally take action? The choice. Are you going to vote in favor of better safety on our roads and for our drivers? I certainly hope you will vote in favor.
On Halloween, we expected ghosts and goblins, not ghoulish government spending. But this Prime Minister told students they need to make more sacrifices. Liberal spending is out of control. It's a fiscal fright fest. When will this government stop its reckless tricks and finally give Canadians the treat of affordability?
Families, I trust they will support us and avoid a Christmas election. Thank you.
In my province of BC alone, food bank visits went up 80% since 2019. Wow. Canadians can't afford groceries or basic necessities. They certainly can't afford another Liberal budget.
That's right.
When will this Prime Minister finally deliver an affordable budget for an affordable life?
Project. Canadians don't live in a pretend world. They know we're here to help them, support them, make life more affordable, and build the strongest economy of the G7. So we hope you can support us and show you really care about youth and affordability on November 4th.
End quote. After a decade of Liberal deficits and inflationary spending, people just can't keep up. When will they realize their inflationary deficits are driving up the cost of food and driving people to the food bank?
We will have a budget next week that will continue to invest in Canadians, in young Canadians and families, and we trust they will join us and vote for the budget and avoid a Christmas election. Thank you.
The only people who seem to want a Christmas election is this Liberal government. So, will they present an affordable budget so families can afford to feed themselves?
If the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth. It is disheartening to know that Conservatives don't even read the report that they quote in this House. It's obvious because the very report that they're quoting from Food Banks Canada asks our government to move forward with, if the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth. Income assistance for people living with a disability. They ask for, if the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth. For a dental care plan. If the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth. They acknowledge the work of addressing the housing supply issues in this country. If the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth. And they also mention a national school food program, which that party has voted against time and time again in this House. If the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth. When it comes time to take 400,000 kids out of food bank lineups, what does the opposition say? They say no. If the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth.
Madam Speaker, first the Liberals made it unaffordable to feed your kids. Now they want applause for feeding them.
Canadians used to line up at the grocery store. Today, they line up by the millions at food banks. Under the Liberals, Canadians are working full-time and eating part-time because paychecks shrink while grocery bills balloon. 82% of Canadian households say they don't have enough food to eat. In college, 82% gets you an A. But for the Prime Minister, 82% of Canadians going hungry means a giant F. When will this Prime Minister stop failing Canadians, allow families to feed their own kids in their homes?
We're here for Canadians. Canadians don't live in a pretend world. They know what's going on. They know which party is there for them. That's why they voted for us on April 28th. We hope you can vote for our budget on November 4th. Thank you.
Each month in Canada, there are over 2.2 million visits to food banks. We talk about these numbers every day, and we watch them increase every month. These aren't just numbers, colleagues. These are the people that we serve. Many of them are workers whose paychecks haven't gone up the way grocery prices have. This Liberal government, however, thinks that Canadians should sacrifice even more. When will this Prime Minister give Canadians an affordable budget for an affordable life?
Madam Speaker, the party opposite has a choice to make. Will they listen to their Grinch leader and not support our budget and cause a Christmas election? Or will they join with us and pass a generational budget?
When will this Prime Minister finally give Canadians an affordable budget for an affordable life?
Madam Speaker, this feels a little bit disconnected when just last session we saw the opposition vote against a national school food program. But good news, they have a chance to do what's right, to correct their error of the past, and vote to support our budget in just a few days' time to make that program permanent. Will they do that, Madam Speaker, or will they vote for a Christmas election that nobody wants?
Speaker, will the Prime Minister confirm that he is not stashing cash on offshore havens?
Madam Speaker, we've got a generational budget coming on November 4th, and I hope the Conservatives support it and help us avoid a Christmas election that absolutely nobody wants.
Speaker, can the Prime Minister confirm he has not a single dollar stashed away in offshore tax havens?
Madam Speaker, Canadians are rightly focused on the real issues. Speaker, I hope the members opposite will support this budget, avoid a Christmas election.
But it appears that the Prime Minister, in his role as Chair of Brookfield, is avoiding paying his fair share of taxes. Can the Prime Minister confirm, does he have any investments in offshore tax havens, yes or no?
If the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth. Madam Speaker, Canadians know that our economy faces significant headwinds due to the trade tensions with the United States, and Canadians knew that, and that's exactly why they voted for this government. If the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth. And a Prime Minister with the economic resume to get us through turbulent times and build a stronger economy, if the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth. Next week on November 4th, we'll present our first budget as a new government. If the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth, which will focus on jobs and opportunities, which will focus on growth and productivity, which will make generational investments to unlock new opportunities for youth and all Canadians. If the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth. The only question is, will Conservatives give...
We've heard testimony that this Prime Minister's company dodged $5.3 billion in taxes from 2021 to 2024. That's a lot of programs, Madam Speaker. Again, can the Prime Minister confirm to Canadians that he has no investments in offshore tax havens, yes or no?
If the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth. The only thing more frightening this Halloween than the Conservatives' disinformation in this House is a Christmas election which nobody wants. If the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth. The Conservatives are proposing to force an election on Canadians at a time when they expect this Parliament to stand together. If the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth. Our budget on November 4th is going to present a strong path to build a stronger Canada, to unlock opportunities for all Canadians, to boost productivity and growth in this country, and the Conservatives will vote against. They've already said it. They haven't even seen the budget, and they are going to vote against. If the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth. They're going to force a Christmas election upon Canadians. There's nothing more spooky than that.
too focused on cutting checks to bumbling bureaucrats. They don't care about rising debt and inflationary deficits so long as the money keeps flowing to the Liberal elites. When will this Prime Minister stop using tax dollars to reward his friends?
If the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth.
Yesterday from the Prime Minister really freaked these Conservatives out because they saw the ambition in that speech. And not only did they see it in that speech today, as the Prime Minister stood with the Premier investing in new nuclear to ensure the jobs of today and the future, they know that the youth...
The only thing that's revolting are those answers.
Speaker, we will take no lessons from these Conservatives. Trust me on that, Mr.
It's too bad that minister didn't write the Prime Minister's speech yesterday, because it wouldn't have bored and depressed to tears all of those poor students stuck in that room. There he spoke about how they would have to sacrifice more and that it would take time to reverse all of the misery that has built up over the last 10 years. Mr. Speaker, young people want to have homes. They want to have jobs. They want to have hope. They want a budget that is affordable so they can have a life that is affordable. Will the Prime Minister introduce that budget so that Canadians can restore the promise of their country?
People of Canada know that this government has their back. It will continue. There's going to be a powerful statement for the young people of Canada.
Driving inflation, the more Liberals spend, the more it costs Canadians at the grocery store. 25% of Canadians are using food banks because they can't afford to eat. So when will the Prime Minister finally get his inflationary deficits under control so Canadians can put food on the table?
Mr. Speaker, Conservative members pretend to care about food insecurity, but then they call feeding children garbage.
Mr. Speaker, what's garbage was that answer?
Did the Prime Minister see the ad before it went out?
Of course there are too many people living in poverty in Canada, but there are significant initiatives being put in place by this government.
Being serious means being honest and telling Canadians.
Canada's economy is in fact growing, Mr. Speaker.
Out of control spending on consultants. Last year alone, over $20 billion on well-connected Liberal insiders getting contracts. And this year, I think the number said that it's going to go as high as $25 billion. Why won't they put Canadians first? Instead of asking young people to make sacrifices, why won't they cut out their well-connected friends, put Canadians first, and deliver a budget that Canadians can actually afford?
The Honourable Government Health Leader.